Jonathan K. says this is submission attempt number 10. 10. When I see somebody says my third time or fourth time, I just try to pick up that right away. 10 times. And now we know why. Here's the question. Although I presume on-air discussion will be limited without having seen the episodes in question, I'm still compelled to make the point that a small handful of the more recent episodes in the My Little Pony reboot have extremely strong conservative messaging. Surely if I've learned anything over 100 episodes of the Stratosphere Lounge, it simply must be an example of blowing up an unguarded bridge that you've alluded to, particularly in the battle space of the show's originally intended child and youth audience. I, for one, can report that with myself as a guiding parental voice to capitalize on the opening, it's working a treat to reinforce such values to my two daughters. She lifts a number of examples, and then apparently Season 6, Episode 7 is one of the ones she lists. An episode centered almost entirely on harassment and bullying, but significantly the presented solution was not anything to do with safe spaces. This one in particular seems tailor-made for you, Bill, from the Thunderbirds to Skid. Look, just watch, you'll see. So if I understand this correctly, My Little Pony is in fact providing all kinds of wonderful conservative messages, and that I shouldn't be so hard on My Little Pony. Steve and Scott and I did a trifecta on My Little Pony, and that trifecta was the one that absolutely made the biggest splash ever. It got hundreds of thousands of views. I think we ended up in the My Little Pony documentary movie. I think we're there as, these small-minded conservatives who are, making fun of all these people. I'll just have to tell you, Jonathan, you say you're the guiding parental voice to capitalize on helping it out so that your little daughters are getting the message. My Little Pony is made for your little daughters. Have no problem whatsoever with My Little Pony made for your daughters. Have no problem whatsoever with any of this stuff made for kids. My problem with My Little Pony is when you have fully grown man-children who will not accept any responsibility. They will not accept any sense of adulthood. They're 30 years old, 25, 30 years old, and they're worshiping a show made for little girls. I think there's something off about that. One of the greatest minds out there, still out there, and certainly a major reason that I'm here, is a guy named Stephen Den Best, who was very big when I got started back in 2000, end of 2002, early 2003. Steve Den Best had a blog called USS Clueless, and he wrote the most brilliant commentary I've ever read. To this day, I still think he was the best of the best. It was relatively funny, but it was insightful and brilliant and original, and I think Stephen Den Best was just a superb mind, an incredible mind. I met him once. He's an agoraphobe, and he's a bit of an odd duck, Steve Den Best is. And then somewhere, quite a while ago now, I want to say around 2003, 4, 5, somewhere in there, Steve just gave up the ghost. He gave up on USS Clueless. He gave up on this insanely brilliant analysis of, not just of news and war and stuff, of technology. He was just brilliant. USS Clueless was brilliant. And he was I was on his blog roll for a while. It got me a lot of traffic. Got me started. And then Stephen didn't leave commentary. He didn't give up on commentary, but Stephen just basically concentrated. I want to say it's chiasmatic. He basically now, his blog and his attention and his time is spent reviewing hentai and anime, Japanese animation. And a lot of it is, certainly a lot of hentai is certainly is not a big surprise. It's kind of psychosexual kind of stuff, and it's kind of, you see people in Japan, you see these Japanese men who go out and they get a Coke with a pillow, and the pillow's got the picture of their anime or their hentai girlfriend on it, and they talk to the hentai girlfriend, and they've just removed themselves from society and on some level from reality. And I mean no disrespect to Steve Den Best, who I certainly consider to be a mentor of mine and a sponsor of mine, and I certainly couldn't call him a friend, but nevertheless, I would have to say he's certainly somebody I admire very much. But when I go over there, I'm just appalled. I'm just appalled that a person with that kind of mind is spending it on this. I think it's just due to a series of emotional problems that the guy has. I just don't know what else to say about it. Look, I mean, look who's talking, right? I mean, we got everything in this entire room is Star Trek. Everything in this room is whimsical and stuff. And I've got the Starfleet uniform. You can see the Gorn captain here. I've got Dave Bowman on the back wall. So, you can certainly make the case that I'm certainly a fan and nerd and a geek and all that other stuff. But it doesn't prevent me from doing my adult work. I guess that's where I'm trying to go. If all I did was talk about Star Trek and all I did was just sit here and break down, patterns of force or talk about, technological errors in Charlie X or, whatever, then I think I'd be wasting my intellect. I think it'd be wasting my life, actually. There's one thing between a hobby and an obsession, and the My Little Pony guys that I've seen are just obsessed. They're kind of like the furries. Look, these people don't cause any harm. It's not like I'm up like, my God, we've got to stop these people. I never said we have to stop them. I don't believe in any kind of coercive force at all. I think you're free to do whatever you want to do in this country. If you want to be a brony, great. You want to be a furry, great. But I think it's arrested development to see a 35-year-old man whose entire life centers around My Little Pony. I think it's nuts. I still think it's nuts. I think it's time that some of us grew up a little bit. And again, see, this is why I don't consider myself a hypocrite. This is as whimsical and as flighty and as adolescent and boyish as any room I've ever seen in my life, but it does not prevent me from being an adult. It does not prevent me from doing my job. It does not prevent me from going out on actual dates with real grown-up women. It doesn't prevent me from maximizing what I'm doing with my life. And if all I did was sit around and talk Star Trek, I think it would. I think it'd be a terrible waste of the limited talent that I have. And when I see Steve Ben Best and I see the depth of that mind going into that kind of detail, where you certainly, look, you can't write the kind of detail that he writes about without understanding that I'm quite sure he made a decent amount of money as an engineer, worked an awful lot on cell technology. I think he might have been a big part of cell phone technology. So he's watching hours of this, hours, every day, I would say, hours of it. I'm sorry, that's different than having a hobby, or different than, Halloween, or... See, like, again, I'm going to beat this to death here, but there's a word that it took me a while to figure out what it meant, but it's called cosplay, and it's costume play. Cosplay is when you see people dressed up as, video game characters or comic book characters and stuff. I think cosplay is cool. I've been to Comic-Con I've been there once. I've seen a lot of video from Comic-Con, and I think cosplay is awesome. And I used to do a little of it myself. I'd go out on Halloween, get dressed up as Captain Kirk, and great. But I did it when I was, 20, and it wasn't my entire life. And for most of these people, cosplay is in fact a hobby in the way that you and I would consider a hobby. It's not their entire lives. For some of them, it is. So yeah, listen, I'm willing to take the point, Stephen. Jonathan. I'm willing to take the point that My Little Pony is actually providing conservative messaging, and I think that's swell. And if it's providing conservative messaging for little girls or little boys, even, fine. But I don't think that there's something particularly about My Little Pony that I find unmanly. And I'm sorry, that's just the way I feel about it. I just find it just disturbingly unmanly to see 30-year-old men just sitting there watching every single episode about these, it's about cinnamon cupcake and, I just don't. I'm sorry. That's the way I feel about it. Anyway, 10 efforts to get the question answered, and it's answered.